Everyone, my name is Kory. I'm the CEO and founder of Stably. We are a Seattle-based stablecoin startup. Woohoo! In the 206, and we recently got our stablecoin listed on Binance, one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world that actually has real volume and not fake volume.
Nice.
My turn?
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Chris Banbury. I'm vice president at Prime Trust. We provide trust and custody services and escrow services to the industry. A couple of our customers are actually with us on stage here, Kory and David here from Carbon. We actually provide the banking services for them, so they hold their USD assets in our bank accounts and then therefore use webhooks to actually make a stablecoin visible one-to-one to the dollar in the account. Kind of piggybacking on the previous people up on stage here, I got started in Bitcoin in 2013. I spent over a decade in mainland China. Was looking at essentially how to get beyond Chinese capital controls, where you can only take $50,000 a year out of China, and didn't actually end up using that as a mechanism, but that really got me interested in the tech and kind of went from there essentially.
And I'm David Segura. I'm the COO of Carbon, a company based in New York, also in the stablecoin space. I guess our biggest claim to fame is that we built out a product that's called Fiber. I'm sure I'll have a chance to talk about that today, but it's essentially a modular kind of fiat on-off ramp. We see ourselves as more engaged as building out the payment rails versus, let's say, listing on every available exchange out in the marketplace. For my background, I first got into crypto, I guess in 2014, after I sold a previous company. A good friend of mine, Brock Pierce, encouraged me to put, if not everything, a lot into it. And I have to admit, I didn't put nearly enough. There's not a week that goes by where I don't think about that and why I didn't. But anyways, I'm happy to be here today.
Hi, my name is Shamir Karkal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Scylla. We're a fintech API platform designed to help developers build financial applications, and we have a stable coin at our core. And our ledger is basically an ERC20 token.
And I am your moderator, Mitchell Moose, editorial manager at CryptoSlate and Content Engine, your source for original, compelling, and objective cryptocurrency and blockchain news. So, no,
Way to go on the tagline.
Let's start off with an easy question. So stablecoins, what role do they play within both the cryptocurrency ecosystem and the overall broader finance system? What do you see them assuming?
I guess I'll start off. Cryptocurrencies are, as we know, are very volatile, from Bitcoin to Ether to Litecoin to most of the alternative coins out there. Their, average volatility is north of 20, 30, 40% often. And with such price movement, it's not suitable to be, a stable medium of exchange. It cannot help you store value. And so there needs to be something else that replaces these cryptocurrency in order to help facilitate transfer of value and payment purposes, oftentimes remittance. So I think in the crypto space alone, besides just price stability, stablecoin can also act as very efficient forms of value transfer. And outside of that space, we can also talk about real life remittance and payment and many other use cases that stablecoin can tackle.
I'll do a little bit on that right there. From what I see, we deal a lot in this aspect right here. There's three as it exists today. We got arbitrage, we have foreign exchange, and then currently we're putting settlements actually into effect right now, so where people can move beyond USD and maybe they've banked with Silvergate in the past. We are actually implementing essentially an asset agnostic system where people can use stablecoins, ERC20 based, whatever, to affect settlements 24/7, 365. But what I'd like to see is it moving towards more merchant accounts, for lack of a better term, banking the unbanked, so on and so forth. But in my opinion, we got to start somewhere. Start with what we know, and then make what we don't know, essentially.
Yeah, and just to add to that, especially that last part, I think it's most fundamental level. When I have a lot of conversations with bankers around the world, whether it's in Thailand or New York, a lot of them think that not now, but in the future, stablecoins will essentially be long-term replacement for banks potentially. It's essentially a great way to bridge the legacy financial system with this new emerging digital economy. So that's what we're excited about, and we think we're well on our way to that.
I mean, money by definition is an information insensitive asset. So I love owning Apple stock. I love trading it, but I don't want to get my salary paid in Apple stock. I don't want to pay my bills in Apple stock. For day-to-day transactions, People need something that they don't have to think about. Uh, that's what stable coins do, and that's what stable currencies do. That's what the USD, Euro, and all the other currencies around the globe have been doing for a long time. Let's see if we can replace some of them.
So it sounds like that there's a couple different use cases that you guys are talking about, remittances in terms of also on-ramps and off-ramps for different cryptocurrencies trying to hedge against volatility. But I would also like to raise a question about a stable coin's kind of existed for half a century. It's called the US dollar. It's been digitized. People are using it quite frequently. It's pretty liquid. Why do you now suddenly need to put another cryptocurrency layer on top of that? What problems does that solve?
So let's tackle a fundamental question, right? If the United States government were to create its own stablecoin, US dollar stablecoin, theoretically there wouldn't be a need for a company like us to exist, right? It would completely take away that need. However, if the US government were to do that, which we can talk about why they probably won't do that anytime soon, companies like us can still build on top of these layers, adding additional functions and features and utilities on top of it. With the blockchain technology that we have nowadays, we're not just confined onto what we can build. So with the advent of blockchain technology, the issuance of money does not have to be centralized within one single party anymore, which is the government. And for lack of a better purpose, if the U.S. government were to let something like this remain in the hand of the private sector, you could see a lot more innovation, a lot of progress that could come out of it.
Yeah, I'll speak to that as well. I mean, these are just like first use cases, like just the ground level of everything here. I mean, yeah, we look at sovereign fiat currencies, what those can be, what those could potentially be, but what can a cryptocurrency be? And I think governance is honestly the key issue around this right here, is where of course you have governance over fiat, USD fiat, but we're able to put in distributed and decentralized mechanisms for governance over stable coins. So that allows a lot more opportunity for things we don't even understand as it exists right now.
Yeah, I mean, from a governance standpoint, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the U.S. is the U.S. We're all Americans, but it's a choke point, right? So if we do eventually kind of fulfill what we want to do in terms of our long-term vision, what I'm sure a lot of you want to do as well, it'll be truly self-sovereign, and that could be an exciting possibility. I think also just talking to traders, talking to hedge funds, there needs to be significant, I think, more trust in the system right now, but the idea that they could settle 24/7, 365 days a year would be a significant improvement over the US dollar. And traders are aware of this. It's just that if they're executing a $10 million trade, they don't necessarily have enough confidence, let's say, in Tether to pull that off. So I think there's a real genuine need for it outside the US dollar.
So the US dollar is a great currency. Once the Fed figured out stability, which was only in the 70s. Before that, there was some inflation issues. But 90% of the planet doesn't have access to it, right? So let's not forget that we're living in the US and it's a great place, but the rest of the world still has lots of issues with just currency volatility. And the dollar isn't programmable. Like anybody on the planet who has a computer can connect to the internet, download an Ethereum node, get it up and running. You need to learn a little bit, but there's a lot of Medium posts on it. You can write an ERC20 smart contract tomorrow if you are so determined. It's going to take you hundreds of millions of dollars and multiple years and probably inaccessible for most people in this room to get direct access to the Federal Reserve and be able to directly access dollars, right? And so that system is just completely locked off. Only the biggest banks have access to it. And giving that access to something like that with 24/7, 365, settlement capabilities, guaranteed settlement, easy accessibility, that I think is the true promise of the future of finance.
To add on to that, some of the market makers that we work with, their volume, trading volume in Southeast Asia or in Asia in general, is about 70 to 80% stable coins. Whereas in North America, that volume is 70, 80% Bitcoin, Ethereum. So you can kind of see, where adoptions are taking place in the world in places where, you need the utilities of a US dollar, but it's not always easily accessible or freely movable.
I'm going to have you unpack it in a second. But so it sounds like right now, innovation, additional functionality built on top of a stable fiat currency, and governance are the main reasons, drivers behind having a stablecoin in the first place. So you touched on an interesting topic, Tether. Why don't you tell us about what kind of context, what kind of background we have in the stablecoin market where there's a need to innovate in this space beyond what the incumbents are, which is the biggest stablecoin, Tether, $2 billion in market cap, and it is, as far as I know, in terms of volume, if the volume can be trusted, it is the most traded pair against most cryptocurrencies as a stablecoin.
Yeah, I mean, first I'll say something that's maybe a bit surprising. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Tether. At the end of the day, like, they've survived so much. They've had their banking access cut off so many times, and yet they're still around. And to your point, I do think it's mostly like valid volume. So the reality is, like, we've learned a lot from them. But I do think it's a problem that so few people are authorized, including no Americans technically, to have redemptions. Like, to me, for example, the biggest fiasco when, like, Gemini and Paxos, both companies I respect a lot as well, had that issue where they were preventing people from making redemptions. Reading into the legalese, they had a claim. Traders were doing what traders do and creating, like, additional companies to get around the lockups that they agreed to. But nonetheless, that freaks people out. The idea that, like, I'm buying a stable coin so it's truly liquid and I can redeem it at some point in the future. If there's fine print, except these conditions, is it really fulfilling its function? I would argue not really. And on top of that as well, I've actually talked to a lot of people that do engage in Tether trading, and they love the fact that it's a very kind of closed, almost illiquid system, because they're making a lot of money from it, a shitload. Doesn't work for everyone else, but it works for them. So I am quite confident, even though as big as Tether is, that there's a lot of room for innovation for not just Carbon, but for a lot of other companies as well.
I mean, just Tether is what, 2 billion outstanding, 3 billion, something like that. I think the global forex markets trade about 4.7 trillion every working day. So when you see the room to grow, I think the entire crypto and fintech space is, I don't think it's even 0.1% of global finance.
You also see a phenomenon where there's a lot of different companies trying to get into the stablecoin space. There's dozens of different stablecoins, and it seems like a very fragmented market. Do you actually think that the market's going to consolidate over time, or do you think many different players in the stablecoin space will coexist?
Okay. I love that question because I get it a lot. And
So do I. All of us get that a lot.
yeah. I mean, here's my viewpoint. I mean, fragmentation, I think, will continue to exist, for the record. But yeah, a lot of companies will collapse, but it won't be because of consolidation. It'll be just because of failure. That's the most fate of most startups, and I expect this will happen. There'll be many more bases in the future. But at the same time, I think the only reason people do think it will consolidate is that it's just intellectually easier. But there's a lot of companies that I think that will be founded and exist, whether it's here or a place like the Philippines, that look very differently from what we consider to be a stablecoin today. And so as a result of that, it'll essentially function maybe as a bank. It'll be technically a stablecoin, but it won't really position itself as such. So I really do believe, from a technical standpoint, fragmentation will increase, not decrease. And the only people that consistently tell me that it's in fact going to consolidate are people like our investors, who don't really know what stablecoins are and just assume and hope that everyone consolidates so that it intellectually makes the job easier. But it won't.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to fragment even more. I mean, there's 150 global currencies already, and then if you look, lots of smaller local currencies used in different countries. So there's no reason why. I mean, it's easier to build currencies now than it was when you needed a government to do it. So there should be even more. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years we have thousands of different stable coins. But I do actually agree with your investors. I do think it will eventually consolidate. I'm just not sure it's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years. It might be 50 years from now.
Yeah, I believe that consolidation will happen, perhaps to a few major players, but around these major players, there's still going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of other stablecoin players. Like you said, think of the different currencies that these stablecoins could be based in, and think about what happens if an existing business with a lot of networks start getting into the space, like a Shell gas station, right?
Or a Facebook.
Or Facebook, right? Or Costco, or Walmart. And one day this ecosystem could be huge. One day you could be looking at your digital wallet, and in it, not only will there be one type of US dollar coin, you'll see a Facebook coin or an Amazon coin or a Costco coin. And each one of them will have...
So yeah, why would you want that?
Well, each one of them would have specific special utility or function within their ecosystem. Perhaps if I use the Amazon coin to shop on Amazon, I get some sort of discount or utility or return of points, right? Similar with the Shell coin, or for example, if I use a Shell coin to pay for gas at Shell, perhaps I could get discount for the gas price. I mean, they're already doing that right now with their credit card and reward system and all of that. So putting it on the blockchain in the form of stablecoin is not a way to basically, evolutionize that process.
So it sounds like it's going to be fragmented in the short term, at least, and some of you think that it might consolidate over the longer term because of intellectual ease. Yeah, potentially. So the next question I have is, what about bootstrapping adoption? Because I know that a big point of a stablecoin is it needs to be liquid. People need to know that it's worth roughly $1, and they need to know that they can redeem it conveniently. What are some things that you guys have done to ensure that that liquidity is present, whether that's market making or providing rebates and discounts? What are your opinions around those specific behaviors?
Well, since we're listed on Binance, I can answer to some of that question. We don't provide discount, first of all,
And why is that?
market makers or anyone that purchases our stablecoin, because that ultimately get reflected back into the trading price on the market, which could cause instability, right? For example, if I give a 2% discount on my stablecoin, whoever buys it could instantly turn around and sell it for 99 cents instead of 98. They pocket 1 penny, but what that just causes is it costs my token to start trading at 99 cents. It's now at 1% discount, which is not something that I want, because my mandate is to stay as close to the dollar as possible, to $1 parity. So we don't give out any discount, period. And with our market makers, we have contracts with them so that they would cover every single exchange and provide sufficient liquidity within a certain band. And that band is very tight, and it has to be very tight for us. And if there is any additional liquidity needed, we have other capital sources to pull in and to provide that liquidity.
Yeah, I think honestly, this is just obviously again current technologies, but it's settlements, and we looked at how do technologies trickle down, and you got to have early adopters, and for settlements, that's going to be Wall Street right there. They look at the aspect of liquidity, 24/7, 365, and yeah, they're going to adopt it. So once they start to adopt it, more eyes are going to get on the industry, where people are going to be looking at things, and other methods of market making or adoption will appear.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was just kind of smiling when you were talking about the discounts and your policy against it, and I couldn't agree with you more. But I'll say this: informal conversation, certainly not a formal one with the regulator. No action is imminent or anything, but the funny part about Paxos and Gemini, all these guys giving these like steep discounts to market makers and traders is that if you're a trader, I mean, you're going to take that, right? It's money in the books either today or tomorrow. And the best thing about that is that creates an obvious expectation of profit, right? So this regulator basically just kind of soft floated to me the idea that anybody that does that is in violation essentially of the Howey test, and it could be in like the pinch for that. So I'm sure it'll just be like fines and stuff. But for a company like ours, we have no interest in like kind of walking right into like a straight shot to the jaw. So we're gonna avoid that.
No shots to the jaw.
Yeah. And then beyond that too, on the liquidity side, our big focus is really EOS. We are also on the Ethereum blockchain, but since we're really the first robust EOS stablecoin, we actually have built out our own capital markets team, because while we think there are a lot of great options in the marketplace, the team is pretty highly technical. We just didn't want to pay out fees for it. So we're doing that. It's been exciting. We're also like learning a lot more about the business as a result. And now we're making that service available to clients outside of our own company.
Solid. So you guys do not think that the 20% APR for Tron Tether, the new Tron Tether pair, is smart? Is what I'm hearing.
Well, for some people,
Yeah, let's hit some questions.
Thank you. Paul from Metacert. I'm a huge fan of stablecoins for all the obvious reasons. I'm not convinced that trade volumes has anything to do with adoption. But my question is this: long term, technically, why does the world need more than one stablecoin if it's a stablecoin written in software? I know we're comparing it to currencies around the world, but that's because we have different cultures and governments and borders and all the other issues that we want to get rid of. So why does the world technically need more than one stablecoin?
Because so I'll make the case for why it doesn't. I could also do the other way as well. If everybody on the planet right now had a US dollar denominated bank account, would that solve everything? And the answer is no. People don't need much more than just a bank account, right? They need investment, they need payments. There's thousands of fintechs, tens of thousands of fintech startups, and a few thousands of crypto startups, and 30,000 plus banks around the world. They could all move to using the US dollar, but they all provide sort of different levels of functionality on top of that. And that's even leaving aside kind of the economics argument that the dollar isn't a great fit for like India, for example. So the real reason kind of we see so many different stablecoins, and we'll see more, is usability and the use case, right? Like the use case that Tether is targeting is completely different from the use case that Scylla is targeting. I will probably never run into Tether for the next few years, and that could be different between all the different stablecoins. It's quite possible everybody on this panel and 50 others all succeed and never compete against each other because it's different markets. And I think that's why you'll see a lot of different stable coins, because they're optimized for the market that they're serving. Some of them are focusing on exchange listing, some of them are focusing on and off ramps, some are focusing on developer API tooling or different things. And that's what makes it fit for a use case, right?
I want to get one more quick question here.
My name is Carlos Tapang. I'm also a stablecoin company. I think I would answer that question in a different way. I would say competition is good. So, in any market, competition is good because
So what's your question, or if it's a statement?
Yeah, this is a statement. Now, this is the question, though. We all are dealing with money, right? And it's a very complex thing, right? I think we all understand that. There has been a thinking about this for centuries. And there are books written, and they're called monetary economics. That's the field. What do you think your stablecoin is going to be? Like, if it is going to be tied to the dollar, like the Tether, what is the benefit with respect to just using the dollar, of using your cryptocurrency, aside from just being on the blockchain?
I guess
Russell, you go ahead.
Yeah, I can go and answer that. Recently, I saw the announcement that Carbon added a privacy layer to their stablecoin, so now they have a private stablecoin. We are having initiatives with our project to work with other protocols, other blockchain protocols, to create what's called utility stablecoins. Stablecoins that have additional utilities and functions and features on top of them, other than just being money on a blockchain, right? You have money on a blockchain, but why just stop there? You can build a lot more on top of it.
It's like you guys said, it's programmatic. There's just so much you can do as a developer.